264, 236 the final last match.
Yeah, great matchup. They came down to the 10th frame. EJ Tackett catching that Brooklyn strike in the second to seal the deal. And even though Josh Blanchard got off to a slow start, he made a great comeback to make that match close.
Dug hard. Ball change for EJ.
Yeah, and that one actually covered some more territory. I think the most impressive thing about EJ is you take a look at the 3-6-10, where what you try to do on this spare is you try to cover all 3 pins with a bowling ball. You hit the 3 pin on the right side, it deflects into the 6 and the 10.
All right, here's our first look at your 2C, 26-year-old Marshall Kent. 4 tour titles, his best ever finish at a major. Remember, he was the runner-up in 2012 at the US Open. His last title, though, all the way back to July 2017, won the PBA Oklahoma Open. That's how you start.
And when was the last time you've seen a pro on this tour throw it that straight?
I'm gonna have to probably throw, both resin and urethane, take a guess and see which one looks the best.
All right, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Kent 8 for 8 in taking care of the 7 pin this week. Covers that one.
He sees a little bit bigger change than he anticipated, and so he's got to go back to practice before his title match with more options.
10 pin has caused problems on the tour this season. Not for EJ there. You said this line to me a couple weeks ago. EJ Tackett, pound for pound, the strongest bowler on the tour. Still buying that?
Absolutely. I think for a power player like EJ, I don't think anybody hits a pocket as much as him. Maybe Jason Belmonte, but I think that if EJ Tackett's carry was a little bit better, he might make the telecast every other week.
Right. Gets his first strike here in match number 3, your de facto semifinal match. Again, waiting in the wings, your number 1 seed, Jason Belmonte, who's hunting history, looking for that 10th major title, which would tie him for most in the history of PBA. Also, $1 million on the line in our next match. A perfect game and a $1 million check will be cut courtesy of Fox and PBA. Kent, we asked him yesterday, how do you describe the season? Awful. He didn't even let me finish the question, just awful.
He hasn't cashed either this year.
You see how strong he was last year, though. 6 top 5 finishes, but 0 wins. After the tournament in Oklahoma, he had one of those realizations. Actually, it came in a gym in Oklahoma. He was working out with his competitor right now, EJ Tackett, and he said, man, I'm awful right now.
Yeah.
And he went back home to Yakima, Washington, leaves the 7 pin. And as Kimberly mentioned, he put himself through 2 days on the lane, went to the gym for about a good hour and a half, dropped 19 pounds in 3 weeks. That's the best diet I've ever heard of in my life. He needs to write a book about that. 19 pounds, and he doesn't have a lot to lose. But he felt like in the last round of match play on Friday, he felt great. He said, I had no fatigue, I'm stronger, I'm better, and I'm ready to get back. Go back to your 3 seed right now, EJ Tackett. Spare, spare, strike as he gets set to close out the 4th.
Both players battling that shaker 7 right now.
He was perfect on the 7 pin this week. Gets it. By the way, if I bought my wife something from PBA.com for Valentine's Day, still would be in deep trouble. It needs to be a supplemental gift if I get her something from PBA.com. Here's Kent in the 5th. Kent, strike, spare, strike, spare. The spares on the left lane. He left the 7 pin both times, but here he is on the right. Now it's the 10 pin that he leaves.
His demeanor hasn't changed, even though his carry stinks. He's fine with a spare. He's Still even with EJ.
That's a great line because we asked him what worked this week, and he said, I made a game plan and I stuck with it. I moved right, I stuck with urethane, I stayed out of trouble. Bad games are 180s, not 150s.
Right.
That could really cripple you and get in your way to getting here to television.
Again, here's the difference in strength between reactive resin and urethane. At the arrows, EJ Tackett is 8 boards farther left than Marshall Kent.
Messenger! Tackett working on a strike to start his attempt in the 6th. His 3rd strike in his first pair. Tackett won the TOC 2 years ago in Shawnee, Oklahoma. Also won the World Championship in 2016, going for his 3rd major here today.
Well, there's some pin carry. Marshall Kent with 2 strikes, 1 in the 7th, 1 in the 8th. We'll tie it all up again. A big shot here for him. Bad shot. Come on.
Bad shot?
Bad shot.
Because?
The location looks okay, but it had to be poorly released because the ball never read the lane whatsoever. It was like it was sliding on 60 feet of ice.
Doing some hydroplaning out there almost. An open frame.
Yeah, terrible time for that to happen, especially with EJ doing what he's doing. Well, that's basically what the bowling ball that Marshall is using, because the surface is so extremely rough. But the bowling ball itself is not very aggressive. So with urethane bowling balls, it has a lot of surface to try to get the ball to read the front part of the lane and read the lane early. But you can see just how much little and how soft the transitional move down lane is. There's very little back end movement, right? You go to reactive resin, which is more like a racing slick. So it's going to be much faster. It's going to rev faster. It's going to be cleaner through the front part of the lane so that when it comes off the end of the oil pattern, it's going to travel in direction of rotation, and it's going to have that violent snap to it.
Looking to make it 4 in a row here in the 8th.
I really like what EJ Tackett is doing. It just seems to me like he's just taking his time.
He took his time with us yesterday when we were interviewing him. It seemed very calm, not over-hyped by this moment. Leaves the 10.
It's not over yet.
Slams that one into the pit. Tackett can max out at 238 as we begin the 9th. Remember, our next match, $1 million on the line if somebody is perfect like that. Since that commercial break, it's been tough for Kent. That open frame in the 7th and the spare in the 8th. Only 3 strikes here in match number 3. He's lost it.
Yeah, that time it was a little slower, and that's kind of the residue of the last shot on that lane where he went light and left the washout. So the mind can sometimes play terrible tricks on the body, and I promise you the last thing that went through his mind was make sure this one hooks. It overhooked.
Well, the good thing about Kent is he really rebounded this week.
Yeah.
A disastrous start to 2019. Gets a strike there in the 10.
It looked like the lanes transitioned quick enough to where the players could move in with reactive, which is something they hadn't done all week.
That's pretty good. 3 of his 4 titles came in non-televised events. And at some point, that TV, those issues in front of the lights, in front of the cameras, they start creeping in that head, don't they?
Yeah, let me tell you something. This is no easy feat.
100%. Just to get here.
Getting here, I I mean, I think
getting here is even easier. Is that what you're
I
telling me?
think getting here is probably easier than a one-game match on television.
That's amazing. Tackett for the win and a berth in the finals, and he's got it. He gets them all.
Wow, trip to A10.
And the old trip to A10. You see it every day, right? Tackett smiles. He's had a couple lucky breaks, but guess what? He needs some luck to advance in the big tournaments, and Tackett takes care of the 2 seed, and he's got another match, and it's up against the #1 seed, Jason Belmonte, and $1 million is on the line.